Hello there, everyone. So glad to see you all and to be here today. Getting a little bumpy right here. Today, we're going to be talking about why a diverse professional network is important and matters for everyone. Yeah, I'm going to go there because it's that month and it is also an issue that needs to be addressed. Um, Again, because this is not the first time I've talked about this topic, but the first time here. So, before we go any further, hello, my name is Patricia. I am an attorney, a mom, a strategist, a former lobbyist, I don't know, a nonprofit volunteer junkie, all of those things, and loving the opportunity to come to you where in this part of the internet neighborhood, I will say, the internet neighborhood, we talk about all things leadership, related to leadership and being strong leaders, to building strong professional relationships, to things that help support you and people to be fully empowered, including, being strong advocates, and ultimately about taking care of yourself well while doing all the things. So it's really lots of great things that I enjoy talking about, have engaged in personally, and have shared with, as a speaker, shared with women and entrepreneurs down through the years through tons of service in the community, in my profession, as a public speaker, as a presenter, as a trainer, and as a executive coach. So there we are, all the things. Before we jump in, I want to remind you and ask you to please like and subscribe for this because we're just getting this channel revived, I will say, because it's not a new channel, but it is a channel that's being revived. And you're going to see some topics that some of which I've talked about in the past, but maybe not as detailed with the behind the scenes on it, right? So, definitely from a training and educational standpoint, and I always will have you link, or I will try to link up any previous conversations that I've had on the topic from a strictly training perspective. But I really want to be able to get into some of the behind the scenes here. So this is one of those topics where it's going to do a little bit of both, and I'm glad to be having the conversation. So here's the thing, you know, the hot topic for the week has been all about Bad Bunny and who is speaking what on what stage and their motive for doing so and all of the things. Now, I'm not going to get into some of the things that I consider personally to just be ignorant. We're not going to touch that here, but we are going to talk about what it means to have relationships with people who do not look like you, who do not sound like you, who do not have the same background as you, and what that means, not just for you, but your family, your coworkers, your community. Many years ago, I actually created an entire course. I think it started from a coffee time career chat session that I did talking about diversifying your professional network. And I know, these days that's coded with so many things. But here's the thing, like the date stamp can prove it. I have been talking about this topic for years. And in fact, completed an entire kind of like 5-day workshop series on it. I think so. It's like probably like 5, 6, 7 hours of training that I did on the topic with a couple of invited guests to come and address some specific issues or concerns around the topic. And here is the thing, when I was talking then, as I will today, about diversifying your network, it was not just from the perspective of someone's race or gender, even, or sexual orientation. Like, it was not any of those things. It was literally about diversifying who you engage with at all levels, whether they're from different social, economic backgrounds, from different industries and professional experiences, of course, gender, of course, nationalities and races and all of that. Because here is the real truth is that the more diverse your network is, the smarter you are. Literally, because it means that you're being exposed to situations, to opportunities, all of these different things that can come your way without you looking for them, but without you harping on them. And it opens your eyes to the possibilities of things that don't, you know, that you wouldn't otherwise consider, right? So one of the things I've always done is I will read a magazine or listen to some podcast or some other thing, just name it. I've probably done it just out of curiosity, literally out of curiosity, to hear what they have to say, to maybe get some ideas, to cause me to think. So I would do that and still to this day do it to help create an opportunity for thinking differently, right? I've talked about in the last week or so how I just finished the book Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. Beautiful read, highly recommend it. And it talks about the Hindu caste and system and the in India and the caste system in the United States, as well as what was going on in Nazi Germany. And so she's making these comparisons about these things. So as I'm reading the book, there are certain things about the Hindu religion, the Indian background that I'm like, I really need to know more about that. And so one of my former clients, who is an Indian woman, with a Hindu background, I was like, hey, have you read this book? And she was like, yes. And I said, so I'm not done with it yet, but when I am, I want to have a conversation about it if you're open to it. And she was like, oh my God, for sure. Absolutely. We have to, because there's so much. And she was talking about how there's some aspects of it that she didn't agree with, which I'm curious to learn about. And so that's literally to foster a deepening of my understanding, not just from the book, but literally of a fellow professional who has been a client and her perspective on her world and how it was picked up related to this book. I am so looking forward to that conversation, right? All instigated because of a book that I was reading and where I had more questions. And I was like, you know what? Let me talk to someone who I think, would be able to speak to some of this, not just from a personal perspective, but as a professional, because she's an educational professional as well. So I'm so looking forward to that conversation. I'm all done with the book, so now I need to schedule my coffee with her so that we can chat it up all about that book. Here's the thing that happens for everything. So, another example is I follow a lot of artists, whether they're musicians, dancers in particular, um, all types of creatives. And why do I do that? And now sports, athletes. Why do I do that? Because my son has been an athlete all his entire life and has been moving up and plays college ball now. My daughter has been a dancer since she was age 3. She is in the creative uh, workspace now, and we have singers in our family, like all of the things. So I naturally follow some of those uh, influencers, performers, whatever, not because I'm in that business, But because I want to stay up to date, to be able to have conversations with my children about them, to be able to have conversations with other people when things come up, and to be able to instigate some conversations, when I'm meeting people for the first time. Because, hey, what kind of music do you like is a very easy question to ask and then to have a conversation about and then dig deeper into it. I know that if you were to visit our house when all four of us are here, at any given time, there is no telling what kind of music you're going to hear. Anything from gospel to Broadway show tunes to classic jazz and maybe even a little bit of country. I'm like, literally, you will hear a broad range. And I am proud that I've raised my children in that way because it opens them up to opportunities. It helps them to grow and to be able to be open to other people and their interests. And so when you get to other topics, even on, in the issue of politics, I mean, like my entire career as an attorney in the legislative space and working in high level executive positions in state government, like was surrounded around issues of politics. Like I literally grew up in the political world. And guess what? I didn't get to just be with the people that on the side that I, worked with or leaned towards. I literally have worked for elected officials on both sides of the aisle. How was I able to do that? Because back then people valued the um, what you brought to the table, and I had a sterling reputation in education policy and being able to present both sides and to be able to provide sound advice. And in those times when, let's say, one of my employers, there was a topic that was really pretty hot and one that I was like, I don't know that I personally can advocate for this or, support working for this on, that behalf. I spoke up and took it to the chief of staff and they were like, not a problem, we got this. And it was resolved. But that didn't mean that I had to step away and not be able to engage in conversations. I could engage in conversations. There were times I could probably give the opposition's arguments better than they could, right? Because I talked to people, I read other things, right? I had friends who were, like I said, on both sides of the aisle, and we could be fussing and fighting all day in a legislative committee room, and then at the end be like, okay, so where are we going for dinner? Literally, we did that often. And so that's why I feel so strongly about this for the quote everyday professional person. I'm an advocate for it for whoever you are, wherever you are. But specifically, we're talking about business and development and executives and high levels. Like the reality is, we live in a global society. Nothing brought that home quite so fast and so hard as 2020 when we were faced with this international health crisis and everybody was dealing with it. And what did that mean? Guess what? It was during that time that I actually developed what became some of my strongest professional relationships with women all over the world, all over the United States, who I would not have come in contact with. We met because of a professional networking group that we were all a part of. So I now have business friends that some of whom I've met in person maybe once, others I've never met in person, but I've talked to so many times. I mean, one of my friends, I've been on the phone. with her messaging back and forth like all day today as we're talking through and working through some business problems. She does not live in my state. All over the country, Canada. I've got, 3 trips at least that I could make to Canada to go connect up with folks that I've met there. Internationally as well, across other oceans, not just northern border to Canada in the Americas, but another dear friend who I respect dearly in Australia. I'm looking forward to being able to plan a trip to Australia to go visit her. And when she was in the States one time a few years ago, she happened to be in my city. And I was sick that day, that weekend. And I was like, it does not matter. I am coming to see you. Right? Because we connected in a group and then we continue to develop those relationships to this day, such that I talk to some of these people around the country and around the world more than I talk to people down the street. And I know that should I need some help or assistance with a business matter or I need some input from them, like, not a problem. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think of this? Or I heard about this opportunity, something you should maybe take a look at if you're interested. Like, we literally do this all day, every day. And you can too, if you get outside your box. Because here's the problem. Here is the problem that is also being connected to so much angst today, without even getting into all the racial issues of it, is when you put blinders on and you can only see what's right in front of you and in your little world, then you can't appreciate what's going on outside your world because you never see it. And you add on top of that, where you're not trying to make the effort to see it, then you literally make your world smaller and smaller, and it becomes very homogenous, which means plain and sane, right? You're doing, quote, vanilla and ignoring all the other flavors in the room, in the ice cream in the box. And I can use ice cream as my example because I love ice cream. I love all kinds of ice cream. There's only a few that I would not do, but I will taste almost anything because I love ice cream greatly, right? And so the same with our professional relationships. I have clients. I will never forget this one. I will always tell my executive clients, so my executive one on one clients, when we talk, one of the first things I tell them is to go find a new hobby or to revive one that they haven't been engaged in much. And they're always like, what are you talking about? We're supposed to be laying out a plan for this next level transition, for getting me out of my slump. Like, why are you telling me to go get a hobby? And I tell them that because while we are about to plow through tough issues, engage in some really hardcore reflection in order to get them up leveled to the next thing in their career, I need their brains to know that they can have fun and that there's life outside of that and that there are other things that they can enjoy and to pursue them actively on purpose. And guess what? It also has a little ulterior motive, which is when they go do that, they are going to meet other people who like that same thing. But maybe they work in a different industry. Maybe they live across town. They would never meet up otherwise. And since a part of the executive coaching that I do is always going to include an element of expanding your professional network, Guess what you've just done just because you're going to pursue a hobby? It never fails. Never fails. My clients have on hikes that they hadn't been doing. They start exploring more of their travel and being adamant about making sure they get some travel in. I have clients who have, gone and picked up a new dance class or lesson because it's something they've always wanted to do. Now they do it all the time. And then they, guess what? Met other people who ended up being able to help them in the situation. Like it never fails. Why? Because you show an interest in something. And while you're doing it, you get to meet other people who have that interest, but may not have the same background that you have, may not work in the same space that you do. And that in and of itself opens your mind up to recognizing that fact that guess what? My goodness, other people outside of who I am and what I do actually enjoy this thing too. And let's take it into another level. So it expands your mind, it expands opportunity. Because when you are willing to talk to people who don't look like you, who don't work in the same field as you, who have different interests than you, those people have friends too. So even if you don't have a common business interest, guess what? The whole my best friend's brother's sister works in this field and they just opened up this new job. Do you think you might be interested in it? I cannot even begin to tell you how many times that has actually happened. I'm not even making it up. They're always hilarious. It cracks me up every time it happens because it does happen. My most favorite one is from my very first client years ago. And she cracks up when I tell this story all the time. It's so funny because she was absolutely anti hobbies, anti going out to do this because, like, we need to solve my problem that I'm having right now. I need out of this place and we need to go do it. And I'm like, we're going to get you there, but I need you to go get a hobby and go, go have a drink with some friends or go do something. So I will never forget this. She went to some happy hour with a friend or something, and she's just like, okay, fine, I'll just go. And she goes, and it's literally goes like this. Walked into a bar, met a priest. Walked into a bar, met a priest, start talking, and turns out this priest has friends that were in the specific industry that she was trying to shift to, and was like, "Hey, I'd be happy to introduce you, or do a soft introduction for y'all." I am not making it up. That is a true story. That it's literally can be that simple. All because you do what? Put yourself out there, be willing to meet some new people, be willing to hear some new ideas. And guess what? That opens the door to fresh opportunities in the work that you're interested in doing. Or let's say in the work that you're wanting to go to, right? My old boss at my first job used to always make fun of me because he could walk in and he had this very annoying ability to read stuff upside down. So, there was none of that leaving non-work stuff on your desk. He could read stuff upside down. But anyway, I he would walk in and I would be reading the back of the state bar journals, and he would poke fun at me. He's like, are you looking for another job or like what's going on? And I'm like, I am not looking for another job. I literally made it a regular practice to go to this. So the State Bar Journal is the monthly magazine for lawyers that's issued by at the state level bar association. And so I would go and I would read the back of the bar journals to look for people who were moving around that I might know. And if I knew them, let's say we had been in a committee together, or we had a mutual friend and we had met up or something like that. If there was any type of connection and I saw that they were changing jobs, they got a new job, they'd opened a new firm or something, I would write them a handwritten note and tell them congratulations. Just that simple. I didn't necessarily want anything. I was just trying to stay in touch, stay connected. Because guess what that meant? Down the road, we could cross paths again, and that would happen. I was not looking to go to a law firm or anything like that. But those folks who might cross my path, showing up in the Capitol unexpectedly one day, guess what? We could have a conversation. So this is something that, like I said, you could tell I feel very strongly about, because diversity is about, literally the word means different, multiple. Like that's what the word implies and means, and it's deliberate. The opposite of diverse is homogenous, which means same, almost like one. And guess what? The reality is, in our global society, because we do live and work in a global society, I don't care what corporation you work for, if it's a large corporation in the United States, they have an international aspect to them in some way, which means somebody on their team at high levels has to maintain relationships with folks on an international level. And the world is so much bigger than what's right around us, so much more interesting, so many opportunities to learn, to explore. And when you do that, that last piece is, guess what? You can share that with other people in your network, in your immediate network, as you expand it as well. You can have people come in to speak as a part of a group or an organization. I've done that numerous times. I get invited. I get opportunities to ask, like, hey, can you come speak? Or can you do this? Do you do work like this here? Absolutely. I've done virtual and in person presentations as a result of developing those types of relationships and having access to people I never would have had access to had I not been willing to talk to people who did not look like me, did not sound like me, did not work, in my environment. That is literally what I base my everything I do these days on, is making sure that that professional network is broad and strong and diverse. All these years later, and I am still learning about people, still learning about new industries, still learning about fresh opportunities, how things interconnect, and being able to call someone, message someone to say, hey, I need some more information about this. Do you know? Or how does that work? Or my one of my biz besties who, messages me and like, so I listened to your video the other day and you might need to go do a little bit of work. She's a professional voice coach, like trained with educational background and all that behind it. We met in that women's networking group 5 years ago. These are the things I'm talking about. So that's it. I think I'm going to stop there for now, but I will click well, I will connect in the description uh, links to the original Diversifying Your Network piece. And if you're interested in the course, let me know. Um, and I will see, because I'm not sure if that, I have to go back and look and see if the course link has been updated. But absolutely feel free to DM me on LinkedIn or Instagram or here if you are interested in some of those trainings, because I am all about making sure that people can do it, engage, support themselves and the work that they do in a manner that's going to live long beyond this moment. All right. So again, don't forget to click the link to like and subscribe this channel. And meanwhile, remember to celebrate you and all your greatness each and every day and all the things that you do. Take care.